That was it.
Okay.
That was it.
Because, so Q is this, so someone, and I want to say this, because I think there's an element of the truth that needs to be acknowledged here. I had a friend of mine in the military who had heard me talking about it, and he goes, it's just a PSYOP program.
Right.
He said it's just as likely that the cabal realized that the Democratic Party was falling apart and started this to get all of us on board. Have you considered that? And I stopped and I went, no, actually I hadn't, but it's not without consideration. So you have to understand that all of this information that you're getting is not for us to tell you what to think. It's just to provide you with the information that's being channeled towards us and presented to you, because it's entirely possible that we're playing for the wrong team. I'm not telling you we're not. I'm not telling you that following this and posting this is not funneling down some horrible channel that I do not know the end result of. Because I have no validation one way or another other than the ability to link a presidential tweet to a Q posting on an 8chan board that I don't have the background of either. I mean, I know who the president does, and I know that's his tweet because he's verified it. That much I can say.
Right.
Can I verify the validity of Q? No. So do I believe it? I don't know that I have to believe it. I think I need to pursue it. I think I need to know why it's being put out there. Even if it's being put out there as misinformation, it's just as important to know what's wrong as it is to know what's right. And I think, everyone's like, misinformation is key. And and I lead into that because there's a Twitter war going on between a bunch of these people who have been following Q that are like probably the top 10 people that have been following Q, and they're fighting amongst each other, and everyone's losing their minds. And I mean, the QAnons are, hang on. What if it was designed for them to fight against each other? What if it was designed for them to turn on each other to see how long it would take the rest of us to follow suit? Because I'm going to tell you, Q has tested us before, and I failed the first time. We've all failed. We failed hard, too. It was not a good day.
Yeah, but we quickly figured it out.
Well, we recovered.
But it was a hard day. That day was pretty hard. But then when we started to ask the right questions, and then we had to go back and remember, think mirror, think, future proves past. I mean, you start asking these questions, you go back and you look and you're like, oh, I get what they did there, So in a way, they answered with giving us the wrong answer.
Well, it's like a quiz, not a final test.
Exactly.
And you learn what you don't know on the quiz so that you can pass the final test.
Exactly. And a lot of this is, something comes up, we question it. Is this true? Is this factual? Then you have to go and dig a little deeper and see, connect the dots, and let's see where this actually leads. And sometimes you go, this just doesn't seem right, and you either move on or you try and dig a little further. There's only been one thing that really just kept bothering me on some of the drops that came out right around Christmas time, because we were following Mrs. Claus, Santa Claus of the United States, I mean a bunch of them.
I am SCOTUS
on YouTube. And it got to be, it just felt like a lot of misdirect. So you kind of have to do a step back, and really focus on key points and not the whole thing, because it was a little confusing. And I feel like it was important, and I'm trying, correct me if I'm wrong, but about the same time, Q had posted, that message is not for you.
Right.
Because we were figuring out the gematria code that we're
That's what interests me.
Right.
Yes, I know, that's when you really perked up your attention, was the gematria.
Because then that kind of cues me in to who this might be.
Right.
And what does the gematria code indicate to you?
Freemasons and Masons use that coded system of gematria.
But so does the Jewish military.
Yes, they do. And so,
what are they called? Are they called the Jewish military? I feel like that's
Kabbalists.
Is it?
Kabbalists.
They're called Kabbalists?
Or the Mossad?
The Mossad. That must be what I'm used to. that's linked to a lot of things, so it's like, okay, that's another connection for you. And Jared Kushner, who you had been talking about, because you
Yes.
said watch Kushner, he's the key.
Yes.
When Trump got elected, you're like, there is a key to Jared Kushner, and what is the thing that triggered for you about Jared Kushner?
Well, he's trying to make peace right now in the Middle East between the Jews and the Palestinians. And he's coming in at a time that is very important right now because they're trying to, I believe, trying to build a third temple. And so peace needs to transpire before that can happen. So, and I know that, well, Trump said this, he goes, if Jared can't make peace in the region, nobody can. So I really think that there is a movement that's going on that is tied and linked to prophecy.
Okay.
So I think we need to keep our eyes open and watch what's going to transpire
So
on
that
the world stage.
that prophecy being, in my humble understanding, and I sort of get it right most of the time, is that there is a certain specific set of things that has to happen before the Antichrist comes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we need to redefine the Antichrist, because to all of us through movies, we were taught that it's the devil that ruins the world. Is that kind of the collective? When you hear Antichrist, you think bad guy.
Well, okay, you have to have the ancient Jewish mindset when they were writing the New Testament. And the New Testament coins Antichrist as somebody who does not believe in that Jesus was the Messiah. So they call that person Antichrist. So it's a Jew, it has to be a Jew, that does not accept Jesus as being the Messiah.
Okay.
That's the ancient mindset for what Antichrist is. So when a Messiah comes, that person has to be a Jew and has to deny Christ.
So what is the significance of the Antichrist person? How are they significant in the prophecy?
Prophecy as Antichrist.
Because a certain group of things has to happen before Solomon's temple is built, right?
Right, they say 7 years of peace
In where?
in the Middle East region.
The Middle East specific, or Israel specific?
Yes, Israel and all the Palestinian and Iran and Iraq, all that around there.
Oh, so the old Mesopotamia, for lack of a better
Yes.
explanation.
Yes.
Okay, so now wasn't Israel being declared a state a big part of that fulfillment of prophecy?
Yes.
Okay, so, and that happened in 47, right, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then 1967, and it's a 50-year jubilee, and it's like clockwork. And this past jubilee was when Trump acknowledged Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
Which every president promised they would do, and none of them ever did until Trump.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that all the other presidents promised it.
Yep.
47 also significantly is the year that we, in the dark, kind of on a Friday night, made the American dollar the backer of oil. But that's not a big deal. Don't worry about that. Anyway, we'll go back to prophecy.
And so there's so many things that are transpiring right now with the building of the third temple, and that from Ben Gurion Airport, which is in Israel, they're building a main train that goes straight to Jerusalem, which the Western Wall, and they're also building that train system from Tel Aviv to the Western Wall, and they named that train station Trump.
What?
Yes.
You're kidding.
No, it's named after Trump. So
Trump train.
and so they're also building these huge hotels to occupy these people because they know how many people are coming into Jerusalem for the high holidays. So what these train systems are going to do is they are geared to carry cattle quickly.
Are cattle meaning actual cattle?
I mean
or
lambs.
people?
You know,
Are we the lambs?
sacrificial animals to the Temple Mount
Oh, jeez.
so that they can reenact the...
Are we the sacrificial animals? Because I'm not sure we're not.
Maybe?
Lambs, the slaughter comes to mind, and I don't think it's... Alright, so the significance of all this prophecy follows through, right? So we build Solomon's temple, right? So you have to wait 7 years for peace.
But we don't really know what the 7 years of peace is going to entail. It's very hard to tell by that aspect, but I'm kind of geared to watching the process on when the third temple is going to be built.
Okay, and the third temple gets built, and what's the significance of that for the rest of us?
That means that the Antichrist is going to come onto the scene.
And the
He will
Antichrist.
walk in there,
Okay.
and he will proclaim himself to be the Messiah.
And do what?
Well, they say that this new temple will be a temple for all nations.
Okay.
And so it's not just mainly for the Jewish people. All people will go in there. So it will be a world temple.
So like the UN was intended without all the shady backdoor.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So an actual spiritual worldwide temple, not a globalist central bank run
Yes.
money grubbing.
Yes.
I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Version of like the UN was.
Yes.
So everyone will be accepted. They will not turn away American Indians at the door because they didn't want to listen to what they had to say. All right, so the word Antichrist freaks everyone out because it freaks me out still. Like in my head when I hear it, I think every devil movie I've ever not seen, because I don't watch scary movies. I know of them, I just don't watch them. Do you think that over time, because this is my perception, that
Well, he's supposed to be an angel of light.
but that's not how we perceive him.
No, but that's what's going to be the deception.
So the Christian, and I don't even, the reason I'm struggling with words here is I don't want to throw good Christians under the bus in this lump. So there was a push, I believe, that Christianity somehow made the Antichrist this devilish bad guy by films and video and just our public culture. I mean, because otherwise, how would you know about him? I mean, my view of the Antichrist as a Christian, I'm not Catholic, I don't know, I guess you could call it Protestant for lack of a better explanation.
Catholic light.
Protestant's as close as I'm going to get. But I think all of the Christian-based Lutheran, all of those that are kind of that middle of the road, not Catholicism type religion, not Baptist, well, even Baptist, see the Antichrist is this horrible, devilish individual, and I think there was a reason that person was that the Antichrist was portrayed that way, because we have come to find out, and I'm going to say this specifically, that the Vatican, who claims to represent all of Christianity, I'm not sure that they represent me in my Christian beliefs, because I'm not Catholic. I am Christian, I am not Catholic. I do not believe that they represent me. And I would think that if God was the representative of all of us, as they like to claim, they wouldn't be hiding, I don't know, acres of books that we can't read. I don't know, full disclosure doesn't seem like that big of a deal. I think God wouldn't mind. That's all I'm saying. If God wrote the book and he wanted me to know about the good guys and the bad guys, the devil, we talked about that, heaven and hell. All right, I got all that, so what are the missing parts? Well, I mean, you already told me I'm going to fry in hell. What's worse than that? What are we hiding? And the question is, maybe the truth. So if the truth is the Antichrist isn't the bad guy, maybe there's some books underneath that say, hey, Antichrist, not the bad guy, I didn't want you to know, because it takes away the power of Christianity to know that the Antichrist who will be in Solomon's temple in Jerusalem is gonna join the world. And the theory behind my God and my Christian beliefs is that he is a God of love. And I never understood this whole go to hell philosophy if you have forgiveness. It made no sense to me. So someone else can figure that out. I'm not going to bother with it, but mention it right now. But, I just think that maybe you should consider that it doesn't make sense that we were taught that this word Antichrist means something, that it means completely opposite in a religion that is very parallel. I mean, Christianity and Judaism are not worlds apart here. They take place in the same area. A lot of the books in the Old Testament mimic, or not mimic, but kind of say the same things as the Christian Bible. So there's a lot of the same story being told there. So you have to ask yourself, when did they divide? When did this book suddenly become this guy's version and that guy's version? And the Quran, for all intents and purposes, isn't that far off. If you've
It's just the interpretation. That's the key, is the interpretation of all these books. And the other thing is, you have to remember, there were books that were taken out of the Bible. And why were those books taken out of the Bible?
Yes, we know there are missing chapters of the Bible.
Yes.
They were probably boring.
No, actually, they were the really good ones.
Oh.
Like the Book of Enoch.
Yes.
Yes, like right, like the Book of Enoch.
Right. So it's all, and because we're authors, and we come from the stance that knowledge is power. So therefore, the more you read, the more you know, the better understanding of something you have. Because let's face it, it's perception. Somebody's perception of what's going on doesn't make them wrong. It just means they don't have the same knowledge that we do,
Or
that somebody else does. So it's perception. What you know is your perception of your knowledge, and their knowledge is going to be different than yours. They could be more knowledgeable on another subject. That doesn't make us stupid, that doesn't make us wrong, it just makes them have a better perception of the situation or whatever the subject is. So when they remove chapters out of a Bible or any book, why are they doing that? Are they trying to keep you from a knowledge that would give you power? And it's all about the people that want to control the power, that want to have power over everybody else. So who are the controlling factors? You know, you look at the gray pope and the black pope, and and that level of eliteness, and what are they trying to keep control of?
Well, I think control is the specific key term there, because the truth of the matter is spirituality is not about control.
No.
And so you can be Buddhist, you can be Muslim, you can be Hindu, you can be Catholic, you can be Christian, and you can be spiritual without the control factor.
Correct.
Because a religion is not about control. It's about an ideology of being the better person for whomever you worship and or whoever guidance you follow. But if you follow most of the religions of the world, their core belief is the golden rule. Do unto others as you do unto yourself, and there's like 3 other basic things. It's not complicated. And we've made it that way. And the only reason to have an organized religion is for control. There is 0 other reason. There isn't one. Because if your personal relationship with your God is that you will not wrong him for your own personal impact it will have on your life and your soul, you're not going to do it. So you don't have to control people if you have a one-on-one relationship with your spiritual power.
Right.
The control is there is if someone else wants to tell you what to do so that they can take the power from you.
Correct.
It is the only reason to have an organized religion. If you can give me another one, I'm listening. I don't know what it would be. And when you have control, you have money. And they say money is the root of all evil.
Yep.
If you follow the money to anything, it will show you the motive as to what makes people do things. And the difficult part that I struggle with, I think, is that in a religious aspect, in a spiritual aspect, I want to be a better person, to have a better connection with God in my community like I was taught. So when I follow a religious leader, I believe that is also their intention. The problem is that it's not, because I give them the implied intention, yes, I'm going to trust you because I think we share the same principles, idealism, and that you have my best interest in mind. But the second that you can take control over me, you no longer have my best interest at heart.
That's right.
So the act of being in control does the exact opposite of the power that I'm giving you by believing we believe the same things.
Right.
And it happens with religion, and it happens with governments. So patriotism. I think believing Trump and following my government and following the Congress and believing in the laws that were created by me, as I was told, I'm creating those laws and is my perception. I believe when I give you that power that you have the same core belief that I do because I elected you. We all know that's crap. That's just the biggest bunch of... When has that happened? When in the history of... I don't care if there's 12 of you in a room. You elect one guy, he gets a superiority complex and throws the 11 rest of you under the bus. Go to a meeting at work sometime. Watch it happen. It doesn't have to be DC. Try to order lunch for God's sake. It's not easy. Okay, I'm going for lunch. Everybody good? Yeah, I'll take whatever. How about McDonald's? Ooh, no, not that. How about Subway? No, don't want that. You can't get 11 people to agree on lunch. Do you really think that these people have your best interest at heart? You're the guy driving around, you're at the Popeyes, you're at the Subway, you made 8 trips to make 11 people happy. You can see why it's a convoluted problem. I'm just saying that it exists. So the problem that we have is that we have been taught, and you were saying information, your information, my information. The difficulty is, what's your source?
Right.
Your information you might know a lot of things about, let's say, physics. But if one guy goes, hey, that whole theory of physics is bunk, now everything you know is bunk. So now you know nothing. You have a lot of useless information that was given to you, and you thought it was a great source because it was at the time.
Sure.
I'm sure that, the guy who invented the cotton gin was a great man back in the day, but right now he's not super helpful. Sorry, dude. I mean, you're probably dead, which is good, because you'd be sad otherwise. Your information is only as good as, I think of that picture where there's the number 6 drawn on a sidewalk.
Uh-huh.
And one person is standing at the bottom of the round part, and the other guy's standing at the neck.
Right.
And one guy says it's a 6, and the other guy says it's
a
9, and they're both right.
It's perception.
Mm-hmm. But the problem is their information is based on where they're standing.
Yep.
And our information is only as good as it was when it was initially given to us. And I think that the beauty of us as writers and as scientists and skeptics is that if you give me something and you say, this is what was written in the history books, this is what it is, if it doesn't make sense to us, we go, yeah, I don't know. And we don't just take it at face value because someone told us that. Now, it's not saying that we won't look to find out why or agree to it, but it's like the village of Pompeii is another great example.
Yeah.
It was allegedly here. And I had a brother who passed away back in 1989, and we had heard about Pompeii, and like when they found Pompeii and they unburied it, I was like, oh, he would have been so happy because it was something that was unknown to us until it was known.
Right.
And so I think for us, we're trying to find out the unknown that isn't known to us yet.
Correct.
And the difficulty is that it's possible that the good majority of everything we've been told is kind of crap. And to be confident enough in who you are and your own core beliefs to go, all right, fine. If the whole entire government is a bunch of pedophilia, money-grubbing, horrible people, which I don't know, it's really not that far of a stretch for me with the government. It's like, no.
Or Hollywood.
Or Hollywood. Well, that kind of makes sense, Didn't know quite what was off, but that seems to fit the bill, If you follow that it's about the money and about power and about having things that other people don't, greed makes total sense. Greed, I mean, in any murder case, in any case of anything that someone does for evil or nefarious reasons, greed is up there. It's 1, 2, or 3. It's love, greed. What's the other one? Anger?
I don't know. I go right back to the 7 deadly sins. So.
Okay, fair enough. Gluttony. I killed for gluttony. I killed you for a sandwich.
But that goes right into the adrenochrome and all the other
Yes.
nasty shit that's happening.
Which is
right
very
now.
difficult to even bring into a discussion like this because it's out there. When we've talked about it briefly from time to time.
Yeah.
When we first read about it, we're like, oh, come on, really? And so what we generally do is research to disprove stuff. Oh, this is so out there, it can't be. And then we're like, oh, no, this is not good. And how do you explain it? First of all, how do you wrap your mind around it when you go to research it?
Well, first of all, you got to think about who is the culprit behind everything. I mean, who would want that? I mean, it's a spiritual thing in a sense, but you got to look at, okay, so everything political, but then go down deeper and find out what is this power. We have good and bad, and what's the real power behind everything?
Well,
and
with the adrenochrome, I mean, it's just like sex. I mean, there are people that.
But who's behind the adrenochrome?
Well, adrenochrome is supposed to be the best high you could ever get. And so there are people that dabble in drugs because they like that high. People drink because they like that buzz. People have sex because they like that euphoria. So it's right along those things where people just want the pleasure, and it's all about the pleasure. But they also have, like you said, a spiritual aspect to the adrenochrome. So it's not only just the high, but it's supposed to give you, it's a light force. That's how they're perceiving it, so that we've found so far. So when you put that aspect on there, then it's even darker than just being.
Well, I think there's both things. The adrenochrome high is one thing. I think what separates adrenochrome from the other, not sex so much, but let's just say drugs and alcohol, for example,
Yeah.
is that the acquiring of the adrenochrome is a ritualistic
Yes.
situation most of the time. And most of us are not lighting 14 candles before we chug our Bud Light. I mean, we don't walk in a circle the wrong direction. I mean, maybe you do, and I'm not judgy. I'm just saying it doesn't make the Bud Light better, because it's still Bud Light. I mean, it's a light beer. I'm sure it's a very fine Anheuser-Busch product.
But the adrenochrome thing is a story as old as time. Because if you go back to Scripture, to the very beginning of Scripture, and even into the book of Enoch, which they took out of the Bible, it tells us that the fallen ones actually craved blood. They craved this blood. And that's what made the Creator destroy everything with a great flood. Was one of the reasons why, because they craved blood. They killed animals, and then it turned into cannibalism. And they craved human blood. That's actually where the first vampires come from.
Well, I think the reason that the spiritual end of it is important is because there's a difference between, jonesing for cocaine and jonesing for heroin. I mean, that's an emotional, in a way, I guess you're spiritually disconnected from something, trying to seek something else for it. But you don't perform a ceremony to enhance the outcome and the effects of that specific thing. I think
But the culprit behind all this adrenochrome is those fallen ones. A story as old as time. It's still going on to this day.
Okay, and so explain that further, because I think it'll make a lot of sense to tie everything in. So the fallen one's objective is what?
To corrupt mankind.
And why do they want to do that?
Because they want, well, it's the story of Lucifer. He wanted to take over God's throne. And so I think our whole existence here is a lesson. It's trying, God is, or the Creator is trying to, it's a story of redemption, where He's trying to bring back His people to Him, to acknowledge Him, instead of Lucifer. It's a game of good and bad. That's what this whole existence is about, in my opinion.
So you think we're caught in this tug of war between the Creator trying to return His creation, which would be mankind, correct? Mm-hmm. Just the understanding as I know it. Mm-hmm. So the Creator is trying to return mankind, which He created, to its original pristine existence, for lack of a better word.
Right.
And Lucifer is what we would call, I think, in almost all religions and situations, a dark force. Mm-hmm. Is that fair? So dark to light is a good example of, I can tie that in for most. So dark to light. So it's Lucifer is trying to destroy God's creation. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, the Creator's corrupt mm-hmm. because he is jealous. Because why?
Pride. Pride
in
he's
what?
Better than Creator.
He thinks he's better than God.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, that's what the story is. His pride is what corrupted him.
I don't think I knew that.
I didn't either.
Mm-hmm.
So Lucifer, for lack of a better word, because I don't really like Satan.
Which means light bearer.
I know it does, which is why it makes it more confusing. That's mm-hmm. super helpful for you. It's really not. Anyway, if he's trying to fight because he thinks he's better than God, so my question is, and we talked about this before.
So he was also jealous too, because he wanted to. He thought some things that were happening that God did was not fair, and he wanted to do it his way.
Such as?
Well, I don't know. There are stories that are in Talmud. They're not actually found in the Bible, but just the way how God did things, and he thought that wasn't right. It wasn't fair. And I can't think of what those stories are offhand. I have to look in the Talmud.
So, in other words, God preferred the human beings that He created over the angels.
Yes.
Well, there is discussion that the angels didn't understand why they were protecting
Us.
God's creation
Yes.
if they were, it didn't make any sense to them. That it felt like he loved them more, loved the creations he made more than his own children, own angels. I mean, that's a theme running through a lot of
I don't know, what I'm getting right now is angels are dicks.
Supernatural. It's so good, you gotta see it. I mean, even if you don't believe it, there's a lot in there that's really good.